Welcome to Grand Prix, your go-to channel for the fastest updates in Formula One. We've got 3 hot stories for you, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay ahead of the pack. Let's get started. What a race we had in Miami. The Grand Prix delivered excitement from start to finish, packed with overtakes, strategic battles, and the crowning of a new winner, Oscar Piastri. The McLaren driver claimed victory with an impressive performance, asserting himself as a dominant force in this new phase of the championship. Let us know, did you enjoy the race? Were you expecting more from the frontrunners? And are you as excited as we are about Piastri leading the charge in this Formula One season? But beyond the checkered flag, the drama continued. Red Bull, unhappy with how things unfolded for Max Verstappen, filed an official protest to the FIA shortly after the race. Their target? George Russell and his third-place finish. According to Red Bull, the Mercedes driver failed to slow down appropriately under yellow flag conditions during the race, an alleged breach of the sporting regulations that they argued unfairly impacted Verstappen, who was running directly behind Russell at the time. The claim was clear: had Russell properly reduced his speed, Verstappen might have been able to overtake and finish on the podium. Red Bull believed the infraction was serious enough to warrant a penalty that could promote their driver to third place. The FIA took the protest seriously. They reviewed video footage, onboard telemetry, and listened to representatives from both Red Bull and Mercedes. Red Bull's case relied on the rule that mandates drivers must significantly reduce speed and be prepared to change direction under yellow flags. They argued Russell's pace through that sector didn't reflect meaningful caution. However, the FIA's findings told a different story. The stewards determined that Russell did, in fact, comply with the regulation, albeit just within the acceptable range. The data showed that Russell lifted his foot off the throttle by around 25%, leading to a torque reduction of roughly 30%. While this deceleration may not have seemed dramatic, it was measurable and, importantly, within the guidelines. The rulebook, as it currently stands, doesn't define a specific amount by which a driver must slow down under yellow flags. It only requires that the reduction be noticeable, and in this case, the telemetry proved that it was. As a result, the protest was officially rejected. George Russell retained his third-place finish, while Verstappen remained in fourth. To make matters worse for Red Bull, they lost the €2,000 deposit required to submit the protest, as per FIA policy. If the protest is denied, the fee is not refunded. While this outcome may not sit well with the Red Bull camp, it highlights the gray areas that still exist within Formula One's regulatory framework, especially around the enforcement of yellow flag procedures. The FIA's decision underscores that unless a rule is violated in a clearly defined and measurable way, a protest is unlikely to succeed. So what's your take? Was Red Bull justified in filing the protest? Or were they simply trying to stir the pot after a frustrating race for Verstappen? And do you think the FIA should revise the rules to clarify what counts as a sufficient speed reduction under yellow flags? Let us know in the comments. We want to hear your thoughts on this controversial post-race storyline. The Miami Grand Prix delivered no shortage of drama, but one of the most talked about moments came from inside the cockpit of a Ferrari, specifically the one driven by 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. Throughout the race, Hamilton voiced his frustration over the team radio, repeatedly criticizing the strategic decisions made by the Ferrari pit wall. At the heart of his frustration was the team's delay in issuing team orders that would allow him to pass teammate Charles Leclerc. From the very start, Hamilton appeared to be the quicker of the 2 Ferrari drivers, yet the team hesitated in acting on what he believed was a clear performance advantage. The tension escalated as laps went by without a decision, leaving Hamilton audibly irritated over the radio. His messages became increasingly pointed, calling for urgency and clarity from the pit wall. "Let's go. We need to make a decision," he urged at one point, underscoring his mounting impatience. His comments didn't stop with strategy. After the race, Hamilton addressed the incident head-on during interviews. He downplayed any accusations of anger, clarifying that his tone wasn't rooted in disrespect, but in determination. "I wasn't angry," he said. "I just wanted a decision. When you're sitting in the pit lane, you have access to all the information. So make the call. Be quick. That's all I was asking for." Hamilton continued, explaining that his reactions were fueled by his deep competitive fire. I want to win. That fire is still very much alive in me, and I could feel it growing during the race," he admitted. "I'm not going to apologize for wanting more, for pushing. That's what everyone in this team wants, results." Despite the heated exchanges over the radio, Hamilton and Leclerc were seen post-race sharing a calm conversation, indicating no personal tension between the drivers. The issue, it seems, lies squarely with the decision-making process on the Ferrari pit wall, a process that Hamilton believes is holding him back from achieving stronger finishes. It's no secret that Ferrari's strategic calls have been under scrutiny in recent seasons. Now, with Hamilton in the fold, expectations are even higher. The British driver, known for his meticulous approach and sharp race sense, is unlikely to remain quiet when he sees missed opportunities. And while some may argue that public criticism over the radio can be damaging to team morale, others see it as the sign of a true racer unwilling to accept mediocrity. The Miami GP was not a disaster for Ferrari, but for Hamilton, it was a missed opportunity, a race where, in his eyes, a better result was sacrificed by indecision. His candor in post-race interviews revealed a man still hungry for victory, still unwilling to settle, and still driven by the same relentless ambition that brought him 7 world titles. As the season progresses, this internal dynamic within Ferrari will be one to watch. Will the team adapt its strategy to match Hamilton's demands? Will Leclerc and Hamilton continue to coexist harmoniously? Or will more clashes like this one emerge as both drivers vie for supremacy in a car that's yet to show consistent dominance? One thing is clear: Hamilton is not content to be a background figure at Ferrari. He came to fight, and if necessary, to shake things up. What's your take? Was Hamilton right to press the team so firmly, or should he tone down his radio messages and show more patience as the team finds its rhythm? Tension builds between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen after fiery comments in Miami. The 2025 Formula One season has brought its fair share of surprises, with Oscar Piastri unexpectedly stealing the spotlight and taking the lead in the championship standings. After winning the majority of the races so far, the young Australian has established himself as the driver to beat. But while Piastri enjoys his rise to dominance, the simmering rivalry between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, 2 of last season's top title contenders, has once again made headlines. Following the Miami Grand Prix, tensions escalated after a series of bold and candid statements from Lando Norris. The McLaren driver did not hold back when analyzing Verstappen's current driving style, raising eyebrows across the paddock and among fans alike. His remarks suggested that Verstappen's approach to wheel-to-wheel combat has become increasingly aggressive, and, in his view, unnecessarily so. With Max, Norris stated bluntly, "You either crash or you don't make the overtake." He went on to explain that even in the best-case scenario, pulling off a clean pass on Verstappen requires a driver to position their car perfectly. Even then, according to Norris, the situation remains dangerously unpredictable. It's a bold criticism of the reigning champion's on-track demeanor, which has long been characterized by an uncompromising and sometimes polarizing style. But Norris didn't stop there. He also shared his perspective on Verstappen's overall racecraft during this season, particularly when the Red Bull car is no longer the fastest on the grid. Without the dominant machinery he's been accustomed to in recent years, Verstappen has found himself in closer battles, often fighting hard to defend positions. According to Norris, this change has exposed a flaw in Verstappen's approach. "He's not racing smart right now," Norris claimed. "He fights so hard for certain positions that he ends up ruining his own race." The implication is clear. In Norris's eyes, Verstappen's refusal to yield, even when it's strategically wiser to do so, is costing him valuable points, and perhaps a realistic shot at the title this year. Of course, it's no secret that Verstappen is fiercely competitive. Whether it's a game of cards or a battle at 300 kilometers per hour, he hates to lose. That intensity has served him well in the past, helping him secure multiple championships and build a legacy as one of F1's most dominant drivers. But as the dynamics of the grid shift and other drivers and teams catch up, the question now is whether Verstappen can adapt his approach. Norris's comments sparked immediate debate. Some see his words as a justified critique from a rival who has been on the receiving end of Verstappen's aggressive tactics. Others view it as an opportunistic jab from a driver whose own title hopes have waned in the shadow of Piastri's breakout season. Either way, the remarks have added fuel to the fire of what was already one of the sport's most intriguing rivalries. The psychological warfare off the track is becoming just as fierce as the battles on it. And with so much of the season still ahead, tensions are likely to keep rising, especially if Norris and Verstappen find themselves wheel-to-wheel again in the coming races. What remains to be seen is how Verstappen will respond, not just with words, but on the track. Will he adjust his tactics and race with a more measured approach? Or will he double down, embracing his aggressive edge and proving his critics wrong with results? One thing's for certain, the drama is far from over. Let us know in the comments. Do you agree with Norris? Is Verstappen being too aggressive this season? Or is this just the nature of a true champion fighting to stay on top?